Hey, it's Michael Gugis with Road Racing World and Motorcycle Technology, and I'm here talking to Richard Stanboli from Attack Performance about his latest and greatest big overseas adventure. Hey, Richard, thanks for taking a moment to chat with us. We really appreciate it.
Sound like almost like Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure.
Which you have to admit.
Hopefully nobody steals our bicycle.
Well, you know what? It was an entertaining show, you have to admit. And, that's what
I saw that at a drive-through, believe it or not, a drive-in.
Drive-in? God,
I don't think those exist anymore, do they?
They're not in any place with land values like in Southern California.
Yeah,
you really got to go out to the
sure.
sticks for that, That always was an entertaining evening, though, wasn't it? Sitting in the car, hanging out. That was a lot of fun. I remember that, too. So we're here to talk about Attack Performance taking Jake Gagne over to Portugal and taking on some of the World Superbike regulars. It'll be really interesting. We were talking about this a little bit before we turned on the cameras or turned on the recording. It's been a long time since a U.S. team put together, a package of rider, bikes, equipment, and everything, and flew overseas to take on the world. And you were thinking it was something back when Rob Muzzy was still in AMA Superbike, right?
I think that's probably the last time I could hear anybody seriously doing it. Not just taking over a rider and maybe a crew chief, but also like the whole crew and the bike and pit equipment and all that stuff. So it's I do believe it's something like that.
Yeah, it's a big operation, and it's a big commitment to the process. So tell us a little bit how this came about.
We wanted to do the wild card. We've been trying to do it every year at WorldSBK. And back when we were racing superbikes, let's say Matt Mladen era, Formula Extreme with Jason Pridmore and Hayes and Spies and all those guys. The top U.S. guys would generally enter as a wild card, and sometimes they do really well. I think. Didn't Tom Kipp win one at Laguna Seca?
I can't remember the whole list of U.S. riders who have won, but I know Ben Bostrom won there. What was it? One year the Honda guy showed up and Miguel Duhamel was on the podium.
So there's been a pretty competitive crew coming out of the U.S. We just haven't had that serious commitment. And me personally, I like the challenge. And, taking a rider into World Superbike or even the MotoGP thing, I think that was pretty cool to do. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it cost some money, but, it's a good tax write-off. And because you're not going to make any money doing it.
No.
You're just going to spend boatloads of it, right? So Laguna didn't happen because of COVID. And at the time, Cameron Bobbia's lap times on our bike would have got him on the podium.
Wow.
So I look at that, he did a 23-1, I think, in the race, or just almost dipping in the 22s.
Okay.
And that lap time at the end of the race would have got him on the podium if we continue that. So I thought to myself, man, I wish those guys were here. We could really show them what's up. And so then the very next year, 21, we thought, hey, maybe we go to Indonesia, since that was a brand new track.
Right.
But we tried to get it. We got accepted. And then Jake opted to have surgery on his leg. It was bothering him real bad. So he said, you know what, I'd rather get the surgery done. I don't want to go there, not healthy. And so we put it off. And then we tried again for another track. And he wanted to go to Portimao. So we looked at the schedule. It's like, man, this is just barely doable. We'll race back from Barber. We'll put all our stuff in both of our bikes and equipment in crates and put them on Delta Cargo and ship them to Portugal.
Cool.
So that's kind of how it came about. It was just a few guys chatting at dinner or, trackside, myself, John, and things like that, and Jake, and trying to figure out which track we want to go to challenge those guys.
So tell me a little bit about what exactly is going to be going over there. You mentioned you bring in both bikes.
Yeah, 2 bikes. The pit walls, all of our tools, a lot of stuff, and trying not to burden the guys at YMER too much. The guys at Yamaha Racing Europe. Mm-hmm. And because they're always there to give us tech assistance. We get stuck, but for the most part, we try not to burden them. They have their own challenges. They have their own program. Top Rack, Locatelli. They got a full plate, right? So we try not to bother those guys too much, but we do get a little bit of advice from them of what to expect when we get there, and maybe a little bit of tuning, direction.
Well, it's funny. Jake had. Oh, well. Hang on. Let me finish this question. How many people? How many people are you bringing over?
6 crew, but there's going to be a boatload of guests, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to pass, put it that way. Some people going for a vacation. I mean, one of the guys that gave us a little bit of like private sponsorship, Daniel Mole.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yeah.
But he's one of the founders of CRA. He says, I want to help. I just want to get a pass.
Nice.
I think he spent probably the most of anybody getting a pass. You know what I mean? So he's helping us with the shipping costs, basically. And so all that's really helpful. So it'll be him and his girlfriend and, whoever else. Dustin Corner will be there with his wife. So the 6 will look like 20 probably.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. That I was going to ask, you had mentioned that Yamaha Motors in Europe is going to be helping. Give me a little bit of a sense of how much they're going to be able to do for you.
Well, for instance, you're allowed some different transmission ratios. So right. They finally showed us what they use. And so we were able to order something that's close. We couldn't get exactly what they have, but something that's close. And we went and tested that at Buttonwillow, and all worked out well. And then, we're going to, for the first time, use a different fuel on a racetrack because we're not allowed to use anything but VP here.
Right.
So we put a little time on the dyno, a little bit of time on the racetrack, a day at the racetrack. But that's not the same as going to an event where you're going to put 500 kilometers on an engine. So you have to be pretty switched on. So we got a little bit of direction on ignition timing and compression ratios and things like that. So a little bit of tech heads up. And then they also have some electronics that they've been working on that they were able to give us a little bit of a sneak peek on.
Nice.
And then we'll have a chance to basically say, okay, we're going to go with what we know, or hey, this is pretty good. Maybe we'll try it in one of the sessions and see if it's any better than what we already have. It won't be like world record stuff, but it might be just a bit better here and there.
Yeah, the package that you have is obviously really, really good right now. So it's going to be gains are incremental at that level.
Yeah. Well, the tires are different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of not an unknown because we went out and the Pirelli guys came out and they supported us to the test for 2 days. We went out and rolled around Buttonwillow. It was freaking hot. The track temp was over 60 C, if you can imagine. I mean, it was way outside the window of the tires, but we're able to get the diameters of the rubber down, so get our slip numbers down for the electronics. And we were able to experiment with the range of pressures that those tires work at and what the feel is like. So there was a lot of stuff we got out of the way that we don't want to do in the first session.
Yeah, exactly. It was almost like you guys had your Friday. You've had your Friday already because you were at Buttonwillow.
Yes.
Excellent. Yes. So doing something like this, that leads nicely into the next question, really. What's the biggest challenge of trying to do this as a wild card? And you're coming from a unique perspective. You've raced overseas. Jake's raced overseas. You're both really familiar with all of the equipment that you're using now. So beyond that level, where's your biggest obstacles?
Well, I think that World Superbike has gotten a lot more competitive since the days of Matt Mladen and Ben Bostrom and things like that. I think the level of competition is super high. I think the technology there is getting closer and closer to MotoGP, even though it's a street chassis and street engines basically. But with the electronics and the amount of data they pull, all the stuff they see is pretty high level. So it'll be interesting to see how close we are to those guys. I mean, I don't expect the world, that's for sure. We want to go, we want to get our feet wet, we want to learn a lot, and we'll bring it back to the US and challenge some of the newcomers to the series next year,
Right. It looks like Cameron's coming back.
Ooh. Yeah, he's going to be tough. Without a doubt. I mean, he's a front runner in Moto 2, and there's no doubt about it. He's going to be tough. So we're definitely going to have to work real hard this winter.
That class
to make sure we can punish them next year.
Yeah, that class is really cutthroat. Looks like we're going to have Danilo back for year 2, and nobody is slower the second time they go to a racetrack. So
it depends how comfortable they get.
There's that.
Sometimes an established rider, puts his all in the first year, and then after all, he's like chill mode, So you never know how the mental part of it's going to go. Is the desire still there?
Yeah.
Like the first year desire is always a bit higher than the second year desire. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. Yeah. That really is interesting. I had not thought about that.
The desire is such a big factor when you're running up front. How much of a chance are you going to take every pass you make, and how much you're going to ride, up to that 100%? There's no such thing 110%. People say, "Oh, I was riding 120%." You can only ride 100%. There's only 100% of anything.
Yes, exactly.
So how close are they to get to that 100%? Is he going to ride 90? Is he going to ride 100 every single racetrack? Yes, the skill's going to be up because he would have seen all the tracks, and they would have acquired some data, and they would have a laundry list of things he didn't like on the bike they could address. So for sure they're going to go faster there. But is his desire going to be 100% or not? That's the question.
When a rider says I was riding at 110% that time, that doesn't mean they were riding above their limit. It means that before they weren't riding up to their capabilities.
Yes, there's only 100%. All that 110, 200%, 300% doesn't make any sense.
None whatsoever. How hard is it to adapt to the Pirelli tires? I mean, you've had some experience with them, but I mean, how different?
We started with Pirelli, I think in 2006 and 2007. We won Daytona twice for those.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Chaz Davies, Steve Rapp, Ben Hattard, on our Formula Extreme bikes. And back then, the front was really soft. I remember the World guys complaining that the front was just too soft. And we had done it because they couldn't do development at the World level because they had a spec tire.
Okay.
So Chaz Davies and Rapp, they did quite a bit of tire development. I think Road Racing World Team did as well. I'm not Road Racing World Team, but the what do you call it? I don't know what they called them back then. Was it Valvoline?
Yeah, Team Valvoline Suzuki.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so I think between all of us, we were able to point those guys in a better direction on front tire. Because I remember, running SC3s and going, that's still too soft, carcass wise, and they come up with another tire. I mean, remember Christoph, the Pirelli tech at that time, he was giving us 6 or 7 different fronts to try just about every time we went out. And so I think that helped tune that tire up. So we have quite a bit of experience with that tire. And we used it at Daytona this year, which was a front tire that was very similar. We used it last in 2018 and 19 in World Superbike.
Wow.
And so we made some mistakes in 18, too much power to the tire, and we murdered the tire in half the race. And so I think we have a little bit better handle on how to make that tire survive.
Cool.
Because too much power on that tire doesn't do it any good. And it's definitely gotten better over the years. And the front tire is pretty amazing.
It's interesting. You talk to the World Superbike guys. Garrett Gerloff was talking about, he just, he couldn't believe how hard you could brake on that front.
Yeah.
We had to go from 1 finger braking to 2 because it's, it'll handle that much more force. But it's also interesting to watch those races because you will still see incredibly talented riders burn that rear up in half a race or 3/4 of a race. So managing it is still, a skill set that a rider has to develop, and of course the team as well. Speaking of riders, you've had Jake on board for 3 years. This is his 3rd year now, right?
Yes.
Yes. And
let's see here. Now it'll be 20, 21, 22. Yeah. 3rd year.
He looks like he's just in top form. He looks like he's riding some of the best we've seen him in his career. Would you agree with that assessment?
In his career, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen him ride since he rode the 600s, and he's always had some, flashes of brilliance, but didn't quite put the whole thing together. And I think last year he put together the whole package and just smashed everyone. I think a lot of people didn't expect that. And this year, he's made a few mistakes, and we've made a few mistakes in our technical side, and we've given away a lot of points. I mean, the championship should have been wrapped up already.
Yeah,
I think he's given up maybe, I'd say, estimated 60 points.
Okay.
And we've given up 25 or 30 on the technical side. We had 1 DNF on the bike at Coda, and then he had 2 crashes and a tip over that he picked up and finished at Road America. So 2 crashes while he was leading. And so I think the championship should have been wrapped up by now, but good for the fans. We're going to the last round.
And it's just a reminder of just how hard it is to win one of these things. I mean, everything's got to be as close to perfect as it can, just for the whole year. You know, you really don't get an off round. You know, you really don't.
Yeah. Normally I'd say, oh, you always give one away all season, but to give 3 away and a couple of bad results as well, and still be leading the championship, he's definitely a win it only guy. You know.
I love it. What are your expectations for going over to Portugal? What do you hope to accomplish?
You know, it's hard to say. I know that's a good question. You know, I think if we're competitive, that's all we want to be. You know, are we going to go out there and beat Ray and Toprak and you know, Batista? I think that's a tall order. Top 5 would be like a win to us. 10th, the top 10, I think would be called competitive. You know, I think Jake's finished in the top 10 on the Honda, but that was a few years back.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can get it somewhere in there, he's probably got maybe in his own mind higher you know, goals than that. But I think if we're able to learn something from the guys in Europe and apply it when we come back, I think that'll be a big plus for us. It'll be like a great winter test, you know.
Awesome. Anything else that I've missed? Anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know, something about your sci-fi books or.
I'll send you a copy of the novel.
There you go.
I think you'll appreciate it. Hey, we've been talking to Richard Stanboli from Attack Racing, heading off for Portugal to go attack the world. Thank you very much for your time and sharing your thoughts with our viewers. I'm Michael Gugis with Road Racing World and Motorcycle Technology. Thanks for watching.